You think electric current is simple. You imagine it as something moving inside a wire, like water in a pipe. You picture a battery pushing charges forward. You picture electricity as motion, clean, direct, obvious. And then you hear the phrase, magnetic effect of electric current. You assume it means the current creates magnetism, as if magnetism is just an extra feature, a side effect. This is wrong. You think magnetism belongs to magnets, solid objects, permanent forces, not to invisible charges drifting through metal. You think electricity and magnetism are separate. Two chapters, two topics, two different worlds. They are not. The moment current flows, the space around it changes. Not metaphorically, physically, the wire is not the main event. The wire is almost irrelevant. What matters is what appears around it. A field you cannot see, a structure you cannot touch, a force that was not there a moment ago. You think you understand current. You don't. You think you know what electric current is. You have been told a simple story. A battery is connected. Charges begin to move. The wire becomes a pathway. Electricity flows. It sounds familiar. It sounds harmless, like water in a pipe. But this picture is already misleading, because when you imagine current, you imagine something happening inside the wire, as if the wire is the stage and the charges are the actors. This is wrong. The wire is not the main event. In fact, the most important part of current is not even inside the metal. Current is not just movement. It is not merely drift. It is not simply electrons traveling forward. Current is a change imposed on reality. The moment charges begin to move, the space around them does not remain neutral. You assume empty space is passive, that nothing happens outside the conductor, but physics does not agree. The flow of current is not confined. It does not stay politely within copper boundaries. The universe does not work like that. The moment current exists, something appears around the wire. Not a substance, not a glow, not a visible layer, a structure, an invisible rule written into the space surrounding the conductor. And you only notice it because something else responds. A compass needle turns. That should disturb you. Because the compass is not touching the wire. Nothing mechanical is pushing it. No physical contact exists. And yet, the needle moves as if space itself has been rearranged. So what is current really? You were taught to treat it as a quantity, a number, something measured in amperes, but amperes are not the truth. They are just the accounting system. Current is not the wire carrying something. Current is the wire forcing space to behave differently. This is the first uncomfortable step. Electricity is not only about charges. It is about the environment those charges create. And magnetism is not an extra topic. Magnetism is the evidence that the flow you imagined as simple was never simple at all. The story of current is not happening inside the wire. The story of current is happening in the space around it. And once you see that you cannot go back to the water, pipe picture again. You are still imagining the wire as the object that matters. A thin metal line, a pathway, a silent carrier, and around it nothing, just air, just emptiness. This is the second mistake. Because in physics, empty space is never truly empty. You treat space like a background, like a blank page where the real things, electrons, wires, batteries, do their work. But the magnetic effect of electric current is telling you something uncomfortable. Space is not a background. Space participates. The moment current flows, the region around the wire becomes active, not emotionally, not metaphorically, physically. You can test it with something embarrassingly simple. Place a compass near a straight current. carrying wire. The needle turns, and you should stop there, because that turning is not a small detail. That turning is space announcing that it has changed. The wire did not touch the compass. No electron jumped into the needle. No mechanical push occurred. So what reached across the gap? You might want to say magnetic force, but that is just naming the mystery. The deeper truth is this: the current did not send something outward like a projectile. It reshaped the space around it. The compass needle is not responding to the metal. It is responding to a pattern in the space itself. And this pattern is not random. It forms circles that is already strange. If you believed current is just straight line motion, you would expect any effect to point outward or forward. But magnetism does not behave like that. The magnetic influence wraps around the wire, not ahead of it, not behind it, around it, as if the universe draws loops in response to motion. This is where your intuition begins to fail, because you think causes travel in straight lines, but magnetism prefers curves. The field forms a circular geometry, even though nothing visible is rotating. No wheel is spinning, no object is orbiting, and yet space behaves as if something is turning. This is the beginning of abstraction. Magnetism is not located in the wire. Magnetism is located in the space around the wire. The wire is only the trigger. The real phenomenon is the invisible structure that appears outside it. This is why you can increase current and the magnetic effect becomes stronger. Not because the wire becomes more magical, but because the distortion of space becomes more intense. So when Class 10 textbooks say, current produces a magnetic field, they are not giving you a fact to memorize. They are revealing something deeper. Electric current is not just flow. Electric current is an instruction written into space. And space obeys. You still carry an old assumption. Magnetism belongs to magnets. It feels obvious. A magnet is an object. It has weight. It sits in your hand. It attracts iron. So magnetism must be something stored inside it. A property, a permanent feature. But the magnetic effect of electric current quietly destroys that belief. Because a simple wire with no magnet inside it can produce the same kind of influence. A compass needle does not ask whether the source is a bar magnet or a current carrying conductor. It turns anyway, so magnetism cannot be the special possession of magnets. It must be something more general, something more fundamental. A magnet is not the origin. A magnet is only one arrangement. What you call magnetism is not a substance hidden inside metal. It is a relationship between motion and space. This is where your intuition collapses. Magnetism is not separate from electricity. Magnetism is electricity seen from the side. A current is moving charge. A moving charge creates magnetism. So the magnetic field is not an extra force added on top of electricity. It is what electricity becomes when charges are not still. This is wrong in the way you usually think about physics. You want categories, electricity here, magnetism there. But nature does not divide itself for your convenience. When charges move, the universe does not say, now we will switch topics. Instead, it reveals a deeper unity. The reason a magnet feels permanent is because inside it, electrons are moving in microscopic patterns. Tiny loops, tiny currents, not in wires you can see, but inside atoms themselves. A bar magnet is not magic. It is a forest of invisible currents, and that means something unsettling. A magnet is not fundamentally different from a current carrying coil. It is only frozen motion, organized motion, motion trapped inside matter, so the phrase magnetic effect of electric current is misleading. It makes magnetism sound like an effect, a side product, but magnetism is not a byproduct. Magnetism is the natural geometry of moving charge. It is what space looks like when electricity is not static, and this changes the meaning of every magnet you have ever touched. The magnet was never a special object, it was a consequence, a visible remnant of invisible motion. So, when you hold a magnet, you are not holding magnetic material. You are holding a stable arrangement of moving charges, a current you cannot see, a current that never stops, and the wire in your circuit is doing the same thing, just louder, just temporarily, just in a way you can switch on and off. Magnetism was never owned by magnets. Magnets were only your first encounter with it. You might still believe the compass needle is reacting to the wire itself, to the metal, to something physical and solid. After all, the wire is right there. It feels natural to blame the object you can see, but this is the wrong instinct, because the compass needle is not detecting copper. It is not sensing electrons as little particles inside a tube. It is not responding to the material. It is responding to something that is not an object at all. Oersted's experiment was not just a classroom discovery. It was a warning. A needle on a table turned because a current flowed nearby. That should not happen in the world you imagine. In your mental picture, electricity stays in the circuit, inside the wire, contained, private, but the compass proves that current is not private. The influence escapes not as a leak, as a structure. The compass needle is a magnetic object. It aligns itself with magnetic fields. So when it turns, it is telling you, there is a magnetic field here. But where is here? Not inside the wire. In the space around it. This is the part that breaks your intuition. The wire is not pushing the needle. The wire is not throwing magnetism outward like a spray. Instead, the space around the wire has acquired direction. It has acquired geometry, and the needle is simply aligning with that geometry. This is why the compass does not point toward the wire. It points around it. The field is circular. If you move the compass to different positions, the needle changes direction. Not randomly, perfectly, as if invisible circles are drawn around the conductor, and the compass is tracing them. So, what is the compass really detecting? Not the wire. It is detecting the shape of space after current begins. This is deeply unsettling because it means the current is not just inside matter. The current reorganizes the space outside matter. And this is why the right-hand thumb rule exists, not as a trick, not as a mnemonic, but as a map of space. Your thumb points with the current. Your fingers curl with the magnetic field. That curl is not invented. It is discovered. The universe insists on it. And notice something else. The compass needle responds instantly. The moment current flows, the field exists. The moment current stops, it disappears. So magnetism here is not a permanent substance. It is a condition, a temporary rule imposed on space. This is what Oersted actually found. Electric current does not just travel. It broadcasts a structure into reality. The compass is not reacting to the wire. It is reacting to the invisible environment the wire creates. And once you accept that the wire becomes almost irrelevant, at this point you may want to retreat. Because the idea is becoming uncomfortable, you wanted current to be simple, a flow of charge, a measurable quantity. But now you are being told that the real phenomenon is not the wire, it is the invisible thing surrounding it. And that invisible thing has a name, field. This word is easy to ignore. It sounds like vocabulary, like a label pasted onto mystery, but a field is not a decoration in physics. A field is the main reality. You are used to believing objects are real. A wire is real. A magnet is real. A compass is real. You can touch them. But a magnetic field, you cannot hold it. You cannot bottle it. So your mind quietly treats it as less real. As an abstraction, this is wrong. In modern physics, fields are not secondary. They are not optional. They are not just diagrams. A field is a physical condition of space. It tells space how to behave. And the magnetic effect of electric current is one of the first times you encounter this truth. Reality is not only made of things. Reality is made of rules spread across space. When current flows, the magnetic field is not sitting inside the wire like a hidden object. It exists everywhere around the conductor. At every point, space gains a direction. That is what the field is, a direction assigned to space itself. And this is why iron filings form patterns. You sprinkle them around a wire carrying current, and they arrange themselves, not because the wire is pulling them like a rope, but because the field is shaping the possibilities of motion. The filings are revealing the structure you cannot see, so the field is not imaginary. It has consequences. It does work. It exerts force. It changes motion. And in physics, anything that can do that is not just a concept. It is real. More real than the objects, because objects are local. A wire exists in one place. A compass exists in one place. But the field is spread out. The field is everywhere around them. It is the extended presence of the current. This is the deeper shift. Current is not just charge moving through metal. Current is charge rewriting the surrounding space into a magnetic field. And once you think in fields, the world changes. Forces are no longer mysterious actions at a distance. They are local responses to fields. The compass needle turns because the field at its position demands it, not because the wire reaches out like a hand. So the magnetic effect of electric current is not about magnets. It is about the universe revealing its true language, not objects, fields, space filled with structure. And the moment you accept that, you begin to realize what you call empty space is never empty. It is always carrying something invisible, always shaped by motion, always participating. Now you expect the classroom to intervene, to bring formulas, to bring calculations, to bring numericals, because that is what physics becomes in school. A problem set, a list of values, a search for the right answer. But this is where most students lose the truth, because numericals are not the core of the magnetic effect of electric current. They are only the shadow it casts. You are asked, what is the direction of the magnetic field? What happens if current increases? What is the force on a conductor? And you begin to think magnetism is a puzzle of arrows, a trick of hands, a rule to memorize, right hand thumb rule, Fleming's left hand rule, circular field lines, but these are not the phenomenon. They are consequences. They are the bookkeeping of something deeper. The real event happened earlier. Space changed. Current created structure around itself. Everything else is just geometry. When you solve a numerical about magnetic field strength, you are not discovering magnetism. You are measuring how strongly space has been rewritten. When you calculate force on a conductor in a magnetic field, you are not learning a new topic. You are seeing what happens when two distortions of space overlap. One field meets another, and matter responds. Even the famous idea of an electromagnet is often misunderstood. You wrap a wire into a coil, you pass current. The magnetic effect becomes stronger. Students think more turns means more magnetism, but the deeper truth is, more turns means space is being structured repeatedly in the same region. The field is reinforced, not because the wire is special, but because geometry accumulates. This is why electromagnets can be turned on and off. Because the field is not a material object, it is a condition, a temporary state of space, and numericals are the classroom's attempt to quantify that condition. But numbers do not give understanding, they give control. The danger is that you begin to believe physics is just calculation. But magnetism is not born from arithmetic. It is born from motion, from the universe refusing to keep electricity confined. So when you solve B equals mu 0, I/2 pi, do not treat it as a formula. Treat it as a statement. The field depends on current. It weakens with distance. Space carries the influence outward. That is the meaning. The numerical is only the footprint. The real creature is the field itself, and once you see that, the chapter stops being about marks. It becomes about reality. By now, you may feel disoriented, because the world you imagined has begun to unravel. Electricity flowing through a wire, magnetism locked inside a bar magnet. These categories no longer hold. They were never separate. You have been trained to see them as chapters. One topic ends, another begins. A neat boundary drawn in textbooks, but the universe does not obey chapters. It does not follow the convenience of human labels. Consider this: moving charges create magnetism, static charges do not, and yet, in matter, charges are rarely truly static. Electrons orbiting nuclei, electrons spinning, even permanent. Magnets are currents frozen in tiny loops. Every magnet, every current, carrying wire, the same principle, the same geometry, the same rule. Electricity and magnetism are not siblings. They are the same phenomenon seen from different perspectives. And here is the unsettling truth: you cannot separate them. Try to study one without the other, and reality protests. Your mental picture collapses. Calculations might still work. Numericals might still be solved. But understanding escapes you. The moment you accept this, a philosophical shift occurs. The universe begins to feel more like a single, interconnected system. Currents are not rivers in metal. Magnetic fields are not forces acting at a distance. They are patterns, structures, rules written into the fabric of space. The right-hand thumb rule is not a trick. It is geometry imposed by the universe. The compass needle does not point to the wire. It points along the invisible loops the current has drawn into space. Iron filings are not being pulled. They are revealing the shape of this invisible landscape. And numericals, they are shadows, mathematical reflections of a deeper truth, a fingerprint of the field, a glimpse of the invisible order underlying reality. This chapter, this topic, this entire experiment, it was never about memorizing definitions. It was about confronting the inadequacy of your mental images. It was about realizing that the world is not a collection of objects, each with isolated properties. It is a living, responsive space, reshaped by motion, energy, and structure. When current flows, the universe whispers a secret. Nothing exists in isolation. Every motion transforms its surroundings. Every charge reshapes space. Every phenomenon is a dialogue between matter and the invisible geometry it imposes. And in that moment, the magnetic effect of electric current becomes something more than a chapter in Class 10 physics. It becomes a lens a way of perceiving reality as a unified, dynamic, and infinitely subtle tapestry. Electricity and magnetism were never separate. They were never merely topics to study. They were always one. And the universe has been showing it to you all along.